Welcome, dear friends, to the Taviren, a Wheel of Time podcast hosted by three gentlemen for whom the very wheel itself bends around. Without further ado, here are your hosts, Bill, Rob, and Rich.
Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of the Tavern. Tavern? How are we pronouncing this, Rob? Taviren.
Look this one up on the internet. Taviren.
And I'm listening to the audiobook, so I should really know this. Although they haven't actually mentioned that name because I only listened to the prologue. Yes, welcome. This is a Wheel of Time podcast with myself, Bill.
And this is Rob Lennon.
Yeah. Hello.
How are you?
Hello. Yeah, I'm doing pretty good, man. There was supposed to be three of us, but I think I think Rand's fallen over.
Sleeping in the dream world, right?
He is, definitely. He's turned into a wolf somewhere and forgot to waken up. Yes.
So, welcome everybody. Like Bill said, this is our pilot episode of the Taviren, a Wheel of Time podcast. We're going to just kind of go over our history with the series, dive a little bit into what we love about this series, and maybe, like you said, tackle the prologue.
Hopefully so. Okay. But first, we've got a little reading for you. We're going to read the beginning of the book. The wheel of time turns, and ages come and pass, leaving memories that become legend. Legend fades to myth, and even myth is long forgotten when the age that gave it birth comes again.
In one age, called the third age by some, an age yet to come, an age long past, a wind rose in the mountains of mist. The wind was not the beginning there. The wind was not the beginning. There are neither beginnings nor endings to the turning of the wheel of time. But
it was a beginning.
Oh
man, I love the way these books start with that. I think when I first picked up one of these books, because let's get into this, Rob. Let's get into how we discovered the books, right? So, I mean, you're a little bit older than I am.
We'll say that's a true statement.
Yeah, we're not going to poke fun at our ages. I'm not exactly a young man myself, but
young at heart.
I was round my my wife's parents' house. So this is my father-in-law, and he churns through books like there's no tomorrow. He's always picking up a new book from like the charity shops here in England just because they're a couple of quid, and he'll just read anything. And science fiction and like Roman books, he loves them. He just plows through them. And so whenever I think, oh, I really want a new book to read, I generally just have a look to see what's sitting on the shelves. And I remember I saw the very first book, Eye of the World, sitting there. And then I could see further along the shelf, there was like book 2 and book 3. And I thought, oh, they're nice chunky books, and I could really do with a trilogy.
Chunky is the right word.
Chunky is
very chunky books.
Definitely the right words. And this is so different from the other stuff that Robert Jordan wrote previously as well. He wrote like a big series on Conan.
Wow.
And then
I haven't read any other Jordan material besides the Wheel of Time. I'll give you that.
Neither have I. But I've had a look at it, and there was just like a couple of Conan novels, and I was a bit like, I've seen the Arnold Schwarzenegger film. I'm done with that.
Got all my content from Arnold.
Yep. If Arnie's done it, he's done the best version of it. So that's the number one rule in life, Rob.
The Schwarzenegger clause.
Exactly, the Schwarzenegger clause. So I picked up this book and started reading it, and that opening paragraph there just took me. I was just like, oh, this is exciting.
Yes. And
yeah, I just ploughed through it. Then went back, picked up the second book, ploughed through that, picked up the third book, and was like, oh, hang on, there's a fourth one here. And so I started digging deeper into the cupboards and up on the bookshelves at my father-in-law's house, and I found another 3 or 4 of them. And then I found one that was book 11. And I was just like, oh my god, what have I done? And surprisingly, this was the first time I Googled it. And this was only about 3 or 4 years ago, mate.
Oh, wow.
No, maybe longer, maybe 5 years ago. Then it was only when I saw that there was an 11th book in the series that I Googled it. And then I found that there was, how many is it, 14?
Yeah, there's
15 if
14
you
books in
include
the final series.
15 if you include the prelude,
The
A New
prequel?
Spring. Yeah, the prequel.
Okay.
And I was just like, oh my god, I'm too invested now. I've already read 3 of the books. So I pilfered through the shelves and took every single one that he had. He was kind of like, he was missing like the odd one in between, like number 6 and like number 9 and stuff. And then I saw I think this was just after Memory of Light had been released. So I was like, oh, at least it's been finished. And then this was also the first time I'd heard of Brandon Sanderson.
Okay.
Who, people who listen to my other podcasts.
Oh yeah, I'm with you with Brandon Sanderson as well.
They'll know I'm
So,
big love of Brandon Sanderson, but this is why, because the middle section of the Wheel of Time is a bit of a slog.
oh, I will go into that as well. Yes.
But so eventually I got to the point where I just read through the entire series in just about a year. I read all 15 books, and when I got to the end, I was just like, I want to start again. And I picked up book 1. I got about halfway through it, and I was like, oh no, I don't think I can do this again. I need a break. So then I started reading Brandon's other work. I absolutely
it's like running a 26-mile marathon, then saying, you know what, you turn around and you run back to the start.
Well, this is like when you hear about these people who do like 7 marathons in 7 days, and you're just like, oh, what's wrong with you?
Why?
Sit down, watch Game of Thrones.
Exactly. So
what about you, Rob?
My history with the series. Well, to go back a little bit farther, my first son was born in 2001. What I did to learn to pass the time, because as you now know, when you have a newborn, you got, not that you have a lot of time on your hands, but you're up at weird hours and odd hours throughout the night with the baby. I picked up reading. That was something I decided to start with. I went with Lord of the Rings, blew through that in The Hobbit, went through the Harry Potter series, blew through that. And I heard about this one series called The Wheel of Time, which from at the time that I heard about it was as Tolkien as you could get without actually having to read Tolkien. So I picked up Eye of the World, blasted through that, picked up the second book, blasted through that, and I was with you. I was hooked. This is an incredible series. At that time, I would say maybe books, it was only about 7 or 8 books available at that time. But I was hooked like you, and I would read it all through the books. And I got to that middle section. And as we'll explain, throughout the course of this podcast, Robert Jordan gets into kind of a funk of having too many characters spread too thin across the world. It's a beautiful, lush, and filled out world. But when you have your main cast of characters, your secondary characters, then tertiary characters, and now you're trying to think, okay, who is this person? Okay, do they work for this person? Are they good? Are they bad? Oh my gosh, then you got to go flip through other books to, my God, it's just too much.
That's one of the things, that is one of the things I particularly like about the series. Is reading some of Brandon Sanderson's stuff where he comments about when he had to pick up the project. He said when he went into Robert Jordan's files, like he had to agree to do the project first before they let him look at them. He would pick out folders which just had pages and pages and pages of character notes. And like Brandon admitted he'd read the series several times already himself because he loved it. And he'd be like, who's this? Who's this character? And then he'd eventually find out it was someone who had like 4 lines in book 3.
Oh my God.
And Robert Jordan he would envision this character and then just delve into his psyche in order to get the right lines out.
That's cool. I mean, it's cool. It's a good process, but like my first read through of the series, I had to stop at book 8. I said, oh my God, I can't keep up with too many characters. So I moved on to another book series at the time. Fast forward a few years later after that, I'm at some random bookstore with my wife. And I'm going through the section. I was like, oh, I wonder what the Wheel of Time's up to now. And I saw the latest book, and on the back of the spine it said Robert Jordan / Brandon Sanderson. And I'm like, who's Brandon Sanderson? Why is he co-authoring this series with Robert Jordan? So I grabbed that book, read the foreword, And it was then when I found out that Robert Jordan had passed and that his wife was looking to find someone to finish his series. And I thought, oh my God, let me revisit this and try and go through this again. So I picked up the series again and I read it all the way through to where I timed it perfectly that I was done book 13 as Memory of Light, the final chapter, was being released. And it was just the most incredible experience. And that was how I was introduced to the world of Brandon Sanderson. And I know this put a smile on your face. As soon as Memory of Light was done, I picked up Mistborn. And that's how I got into Brandon Sanderson and the Cosmere, because I had put down the Wheel of Time thinking this series may not finish, it's going to go on forever, you got too many characters. And then seeing, oh, he passed. Oh God, I owe it to myself to at least finish this man's work and to get to the end of the road. And I'm so glad that I did. This will be my third time going through the series. Through this podcast.
Yeah, this is going to be my third as well, actually, ironically.
Yeah.
I listened to it all on Audible. Second time round. I was like, I'm going to have someone read it to me.
The book in my hands now, so old school for me.
I think I will need to rebook
it. The podcast. I can't listen to books on the phone. I'm listening to podcasts.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do a mixture of both, actually, because I'm going to have to make notes as well. Oh God,
I got names underlined. I was at first going to track all the names of when people start to come up for the first time when they're mentioned, but then I thought, my God, that's too much. I don't know if I can do that.
Well, Brandon Sanderson actually has someone who does that work for him, because
he's on his own novels.
On Wheel of Time, there was someone who done it, and I think he took them on afterwards, and then they now do it all for the Stormlight Archive series, or actually for the whole Cosmere.
The whole Cosmere.
Yeah, because he sometimes submits like parts of the novel, and then they come back to him going, "No, this person is actually standing on this other planet at this time." And they're like, "Oh, guess I'll rewrite this chapter then."
You be careful, Bill. We're going to turn this into a Cosmere podcast real quick.
I think it'll be a long time before we turn this into a Cosmere podcast. I know there's a lot of theories about how the Wheel of Time is part of the Cosmere.
Oh my God, you're going to blow my mind now.
No, they're all fake. People like to try and intertwine it, but Brandon Sanderson's like, yeah, that would be a bit harsh on Robert. But I know he is.
Kelsier was that third knight that fought in the war.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Kelsier's the bloke at the pub who cries when Nynaeve turns up, which is probably my favourite moment in the whole books. And that bit was Robert Jordan.
Which bit? I'm sorry. Which bit was that?
It's the bit where I think it's the very last book, and it's almost like the last paragraph of the book, and it's when is it? So you wanted to mention this actually, the pronunciation of one of the main characters.
Yeah. Well, okay. I'm going to warn all the listeners here at first. I have my dear Aunt Nina. I love her to death. She's a great person, and back in her day would have drunk both you and me under the table. I can tell you that.
That doesn't take much with me, mate, since I've had a kid.
So when I first picked up Wheel of Time and I'm reading through it, and in my mind's eye, I'm reading it in my mental capacity, I see the name that is pronounced Nynaeve. In my mind, I say Nina Eve. Now, I'm warning everybody, that's going to slip from time to time. When we speak of this great character, I will slip and call her Nina Eve. Please don't send me too much hate mail. But
it's fine, Rob.
You and I both know that from our video game history that some people get rather salty if you mispronounce certain characters.
I think, again, people who know me from my other podcasts know I'm terrible at pronouncing stuff. I have a really bad habit of just skim reading stuff and then making up a name in my head. And then once I've done that, it sticks. So even once people correct me,
I'll give you. If you fail, you fail with grace.
Exactly. So I always pronounce it naive.
No.
which is nowhere near what the actual word
gosh.
is. Yeah, I think it's
right.
Nani. Is it naive? Oh, God, I can't even say it properly.
I thought it was Nynaeve.
Nynaeve.
And okay. I can only hope that our third partner has a whole nother pronunciation. That would be most grand.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant. So I'm going to call her Nynaeve. Or Nanani even sometimes, as I used to say it in my head.
Nanaki.
Yeah,
Nanaki,
no.
there you go.
Yeah, Nanaki, 1%. Perfect. um, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to delving into this book again. I absolutely loved The Wheel of Time.
Oh, I know. And blessing in disguise, I was selected for jury duty about a month ago. I think I knocked out 4 more chapters of the first book. So I'm already up to when they meet a certain peddler that comes to Two Rivers. So
see, that's the thing. So, because that's one of the things I also want to sort of keep an eye on as we go on through this. So, like I said, Robert Jordan used to go really deep into his sub characters. So I want to do, every time we review a chapter, I want to do, hey, who's the sub characters? We'll give them a rating out of 10 or something.
Okay.
Just all the ones that we know aren't going to turn up later, or maybe they will.
I think we had mentioned before we were going to have running counts of when certain literary notes come up. Like every time that a female character unhappily crosses her arms under her breasts.
Yeah, folds her arms under her breasts was one of his favorites.
Happens a lot. And then mine was to how many times they comment on how ignoring the weather isn't really a magical construct. It's just something you do. It's so cold, but how could they say they just ignore the weather and it's fine? And it's nothing to do with magic. They just ignore it.
Yep, just ignore it. It's fine. Okay. Well, we'll pick those up as we go along through the series.
Yep.
We'll be like, okay, here's one we'll do. But yeah, definitely the folding of the arms under the breasts. That's one of those things that always goes. Oh, actually, yeah. And there's the I know these are mostly female related. These are just ones that come up. But when they smooth their dress down, I can't remember the exact wording, but yeah, he's always saying she nervously.
Women kind of passively do when the man makes them very upset.
Yes, the acai.
Yes, exactly.
I think it's pronounced acai.
And then where we go again? I was Aes Sedai.
Aes Sedai. Yeah, no, it is Aes Sedai. There you go. That's just me pronouncing it terribly. You're right. I remember that from the audiobooks now. I remember the first time when I listened to the audiobooks and it was like Aes Sedai. I was like, oh wow, I was way off.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of names that are in our future that we're going to have fun with.
Just so everybody knows, I've touched the source and it's destroyed my memory for reading.
You have the taint.
Yes, I have the taint. I had way too much taint in my 20s. It's destroyed my brain.
We'll just let that one fall to the wayside. No comment needed.
Okay. So, well, should we go over the prologue? Might as well start off with the prologue with the pilot. Yep. So, as far as I know, it's some crazy bloke kills everyone.
Yeah, we start. The prologue is titled "Drag Him Out." Like you said, some crazy bloke is standing around, sees all these dead people, and I know that one of the lines that Robert.
So it's Bruce Willis, yeah.
I'm sorry.
So it's Bruce Willis, yeah.
Yep.
He's standing around. He's seeing dead people.
He's standing. Well, the dead lay makes me think of a line from a Pearl Jam song called "Jeremy." Was the dead lay in pools of rue blood, and that this theme brought that line of dialogue or that lyric of the song to my mind. I thought of that. But the man standing around, he's not cognizant of all the death surrounding him and all the destruction. All he cares about is finding his Elena.
Yes.
Well, have you seen Elena? That's all he kept asking.
Have you seen her? Have you seen her?
Have you seen her?
And then his friend turns up to poke him.
Yes. His friend comes up and he's like, "Oh, do you have any idea what you've done? Do you have any idea?" I mean, one of the descriptions is that the stone walls of this castle just rent and just torn apart as if it was paper mache. And
it's been torn to pieces.
All he hears is, "Have you seen my Elena? Is she safe? Is she safe?"
Yes.
In this prologue is the first time we get the mentions of Shaitan and the Taint.
Yep. But I mean, at this point, it's all just nonsense.
Yes.
If you haven't read it before,
we have no idea. We know someone did some bad stuff.
Yep.
And he's not quite aware it's just.
Yeah, he's not aware of himself, is he? Because I can't. Do they actually mention the guy's name who turns up?
let's see
Because
here.
it's
Ellen,
Beelzemom, isn't it?
yeah, Ellen Main, Elon Main, I believe is the name.
Oh, okay.
Because what he does is he performs black magic on our unaware protagonist
Hmm.
and
Makes
makes
him
him
see
aware.
what he's done. Yes.
Yeah, brings to light what happened.
So this is Lewis Ferrin, who is basically he's gone absolutely bonkers. He's been touching what's called the taint, which is a something that a guy called Shaitan apparently poisoned the source of men's magic with. So it's all done in like from Lewis Ferrin's perspective, and he's wandering around.
Yes.
He's looking for his wife. He's wondering where she is. Then this guy turns up who starts taunting him, telling him like, "What have you done? You've killed everyone." He's just like, where's my Elena? She should be here. She should be here to greet our guests." And
Exactly.
then
Yes, that is you greet our guests who are
yes,
lying dead.
yes, they're all lying dead on the floor, but he just can't. Lewis can't see them, and so our unhelpful person casts a bit of magic on him and lets him see exactly what he's done.
Yep,
And
yep.
Lewis Ferrin has destroyed everyone and everything that he loves.
What I love is Jordan's brilliant description of the unfathomable pain when Lewis Theron realizes what he has done.
Yeah, he almost sort of blacks out, but then he still remains
Yep.
conscious, and he can't take the pain of knowing what he's done, where he's killed his
Especially
wife
when
and his children.
Yep, when he stumbles upon Elena's body.
Yes.
That's when it all just comes to a complete head and it hits the fan basically.
Yeah, it really hits the fan. He sort of grabs hold of the source for one last time.
Yep, the
and
Satan.
no, I'm not gonna. I'll come to the two sides of the sources on another episode. I'll need to hear both names read to me before I can even try to remember that properly.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's not. See, this is why I want to do it as well, because all that sort of stuff isn't really fresh in my mind. But yeah, he grabs hold of the source and does one last enormous eruption of power, because he's the dragon, as the other guy keeps calling him.
Yep.
And what is he called? Kinslayer, because he's killed all of his kin, his next of kin. And he turns into a gigantic mountain.
Driven by madness, Lewis Theron teleports to somewhere random and goes out in a blaze of glory, and in this moment creates what is known as Dragon Mount.
Yes. So Dragon Mount is also what the fan site's called for this, and I think it's also what Jordan's estate became called. If that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
Where they have where they give out all the rights and stuff. So yeah, I think it's called Dragon Mount, and they have recently sold the rights to Amazon to make a TV series of the Wheel of Time, which is going to be out on Amazon Prime.
That is so great. Just to let everybody know, we had decided to do this podcast way before that news came out.
Yes.
But then when the announcement came out, we we better get up off our rumps and get this started.
Yeah, exactly. And then about a week or so ago, Brandon Sanderson then released an update saying that he'd been on site and that production was going well. So we were like, oh, God, we better get to that quick.
Have you heard of any casting yet?
I haven't. But when he says production, I assume that means like script writing and stuff. And I think he said like he'd seen the first couple of episodes and they were looking good.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's something that maybe we'll have to pick up in the future as well.
Absolutely.
We'll binge watch each series and then do our review of it and how it compares to the books.
That's great. That's how another one of our cohorts does with Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Mr. Caleb Schweiss and his partner, they do a Game of Thrones podcast where they compare and contrast the books to the series.
Mm. Yeah, that's a tale of Schweiss and Johnson for a few chickens more.
For a few chickens more.
I love that title.
You guys need a Game of Thrones podcast, I suggest For a Few Chickens More.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
Cool. So is there anything else to cover on the prologue?
No, I mean, like I said, it's just setting it. We get two characters. We don't know how they factor into the overall themes of the book yet, but we know that very strong magic, not both physical nature, but of a mental nature. And, someone enough power to create a mountain So we know that there's some very serious stuff going on.
Yeah, he's a badass.
Yeah.
But yes, but then we don't find out until much later on that this all happened at some other point. So it's pretty much nothing to do with the story we're about to cover.
Well, chapter 1 starts in a very different place with very different people in a very different tone. So
exactly. So on our next episode, so this is the pilot. On our next episode, which will be episode 1, we will be covering the chapter "An Empty Road" from the Eye of the World. So, guys, if you do want to read along with us, or if you're picking us up sometime way in the future, get reading. These chapters aren't always short.
yes, exactly.
So we'll start covering one chapter at a time. I think if there are some short chapters coming up, we'll bundle a few together, and we'll see how we get on, Rob. If we're finding out that we're sort of flying through, we'll start doing more chapters, or if we're finding it difficult, we'll start condensing it down.
Okay.
But yeah,
exactly.
Cool.
All right.
Have you got anything else you want to add then?
No. Until then, we will see you at the Two Rivers Inn.
Yes, we will see you at the Two Rivers Inn. No, is it the Wine Spring Inn?
The Wine Spring Inn. Yes, you are correct.
There we go. My memory does work. My memory does serve me correctly.
I think we just found our outro.
Our outro, yes. If all else fails, meet back at the Wine Spring Inn.
Meet back at the Wine Spring. Thanks a lot, guys.
Yep. Thanks for tuning in, guys. And yeah, we'll see you at the inn.
We'll see you at the end. Take care.
This has been a presentation
of the We Can Make This Work
Probably Network.
Follow us on Twitter
@ProbablyWork for more of our questionable content.
Also, we have a website called probablywork.com.